Hi everyone, this is Gavin from Gavin's Gadgets. Hope you guys are keeping well. Welcome back everyone. For everyone that's new here, I'm a photographer. I review a lot of audio gear and focus on the cameras that come on smartphones. So I've been using ProRAW since it's come out, and I've been using it extensively pretty much all the time. So there's a timestamp in this video that shows you the three different sections I put up now. And at the end, there's a whole section of 60 plus photos, all shot in ProRAW in pretty stunning locations. And I hope you like those. So if you want to see all the photos I've taken, you can follow me on Instagram and see all the photos. I'm on Twitter, the same profile name as well. And obviously on Twitter, I discuss other things as well. If you need to ask me any questions, I answer them all below. So first of all, we're going to check out what camera settings you need. So let's bring up the camera settings. So the first thing to do, you need to scroll down to the camera settings, formats, and make sure Apple ProRAW is on. Then you need to go into preserve setting, make sure these are all on. And it all makes sense in a minute, but you can have a good read as to what they do. Finally, have your grid on, and then scroll right down and you'll see Smart HDR. Now what you need to do with Smart HDR is toggle that off. And you might think that's a bit odd, but you actually haven't turned it off, and I'll explain why in a minute. What you'll notice now on the top of the screen, there's an exposure meter. If you tap on it, it brings up the control for exposure at the bottom. Tap again. So here you can see what your exposure level is. Now, because we turned HDR off, we now have a toggle for it on the very bottom, all the other toggles. And you can see if you tap on it, you can turn that on or off, and it is on at the moment. So just quite interesting to know that. And you've seen the RAW setting. Top, you can turn ProRAW on and off. If you tap live photos, you'll see that RAW is switched off. And that's a very quick overview. Why would you want HDR control on or off? Because sometimes when you're shooting into the sun, you don't want the Smart HDR doing its thing. You just want it off so you can get more of a silhouette type look. That's pretty much one of the reasons why you want to have control on that. But also you now have that exposure meter showing what your exposure setting is at the top as well. What you also have to note is with ProRAW setting, that even with everything you've done, you might have to turn it on if you haven't used the camera app in a while. And if you've been shooting video for quite a while, sometimes it also toggles the ProRAW off. But otherwise it's pretty much on most of the time. So now I'm going to show you how to edit the photos. And after that, there's the gallery of over 60 plus photos to look at. Let's go into editing. Okay, so I use Adobe Lightroom Mobile. This is the best app to use. You can edit the ProRAW with the default Photos app, but for the best results, you need Adobe Lightroom Mobile. It is free to use. There is a subscription which costs about £60 a year if you want to use some of the more advanced features that they have, but you can do pretty much 90% of everything I'm going to show you, or 95 probably, without having to pay. So these are the ProRAW photos. Now, the first thing you do is you open it up and you'll notice the profile here. Now you might see these settings on that side. There's an option in the settings to have it left-handed. I'm left-handed, so that's why I have my controls on this side. That's wrong because we shot in ProRAW. So you go here and you'll notice there's a monochrome and there is a color. So automatically putting the correct profile on for what we shot it in makes a lot of difference. Now with Adobe Lightroom, if you want to change anything, you need to hit here and go back. And if you select monochrome, you have the option of the monochrome setting as well. But let's go back, ProRAW. And here, if you need to adjust the brightness, which is the tone mapping, you can do that. I think it's normally best just to leave it as is. Now, what we can do is you'll see automatically that photo starting to look better than these two. What you can do, you don't need the Apple Pencil, by the way. You can do this all quite happily by hand. You can hit copy here, like so, and we've copied that profile change. So if you've taken 50 shots, all you'd have to do now is just highlight the ones you want and hit paste and apply, and it will now put that profile setting correct on the other two. So we've done that, saves a bit of time. So what we've done here is we've gone in, still doesn't look anything perhaps as you'd like. The first thing I recommend is just hitting auto. Let's see what Adobe can do, and it hasn't done too much in this particular case. So let's go here. Now, because we shot this in ProRAW, we have enormous control of the actual photo. So the first thing I do is I like to drop the highlights down, because we're going to want to bring out this particular part here, the clouds, but it's still too dark. And here you see you can adjust the shadows quite a bit. So you just want to get it not too bright. What you could do it this, so you could actually increase the exposure a bit, but you have to be careful because that's takes quite a bit. And you can see by tapping here, it drops it down by small increments. If you double tap the middle, it resets it. Let's just take that up a bit and take the shadows up. And again, you can play around with how much you like this. What I next do is, I don't touch the detail sharpening because that's been applied in the actual profile. Because it's automatically adjusted for the iPhone, these things are enabled automatically when you select ProRAW. Geometry is literally, I'll show you that in a second actually. But if we go next into the effects, which is what I do second, I always put a vignette in because I want to focus the light, your eye, in the main subject field. So I don't want you looking over here on the edges, I want you looking more in the middle. So it's important to have something that you can experiment. You can see that's too dark in my mind. Dehaze, where again you want to bring out a bit more of the cloud here, you can slide that and you can see the difference that makes automatically. I think that's too much. We'll have that, let's just say about there. Drop a bit of clarity. Texture, we don't need to adjust. That's similar to all these things. It's more for fabrics and stuff like that. It can bring out more of the material. And then we have here the color balance. Now what you can do, you can make it colder by dropping that way. That's too blue, obviously, in my book. But you can see just about here, give it time to adjust. That's not too bad. But you might want to go the other way and make it more like so. But if you double tap, bring it back to what the photo was without changing it too much. What we can do, which I like doing, is color grading. Now here you can adjust the shadows, the midtones, the highlights, or you can do a global adjustment. I prefer doing this more often because it's quicker, but you can play around with it. So you can move this around here and you can see how your shot just changes. So if we just put, say, that, but what you can do once you've got what you're kind of looking for, you can mess around here and take it round. Maybe, let's go back. I quite like that. And if it's too much color, you can adjust the saturation or you can take it up. And again, you can make that what you want. This is the luminous, this is the more of a brightness. Again, so put it about there and then hit cross when you've done what you want there. Now, this is the cropping tool. I personally work in 16:9, just check that. So, yeah, like so. Here you have the selective tool. Now this part here is the advanced stuff. And here you can select either having a circular or, I'll show you. So you can add here and you can then adjust for that particular selective part, cancel that. Or if you do, you can have things like here, you can do things like so. Again, that's you know, on the sort of when you have to pay the subscription. Here you can heal or, you know, fix parts of the photo. So if you had a sunspot, you can remove it using that. But here we're just going to focus on editing this to get the best out of. So what we've now got is we've got a shot that looks pretty good. I'm going to brighten that just quite a bit more. And then what I'm going to do in the effects is I'm going to bring that down. And the feather blends the actual vignettes on the edges a little bit more. And there we have the final shot. Now, that's what it looked like. That's where we are now. Pretty amazing, eh? Now what you can do is one other thing, again, this is part of the paid subscription, is actually fix the church. Because I was standing at an angle, it's obviously wasn't quite like that. So you can actually adjust. You can do the auto thing here. So when you've finished editing, all you have to do here is hit export to camera roll. There are various settings here. So if I'm sharing stuff, I drop the quality down to 70%. I put a watermark on them, and I have my name, which if I make that here, you can see there it is. And the opacity, you can change that. If you hit the dots, it moves. Let's change that. It moves it around like so, but you can tap and see how it all works. It's quite straightforward, to be honest. But obviously you may want to put this back into your camera roll. You may not want, obviously, that. I always try and make sure these are on so I don't lose the metadata. When I'm exporting, so it's for myself, keep it at 100%. And then all I have to do here is tap center of that export. And you've got various other options as well. You can do, again, they're pretty much self-explanatory. So we've done one, we can now move to the next one here. And this again doesn't look very exciting. So again, because we did the copy and paste, remember ProRAW profiles, make sure that's selected. You can hit auto, it doesn't do too much. You're really gonna have to change it yourself. The first thing here, I'm just gonna crop it, just make it to 16:9. And we're gonna start dropping the highlights. I wanna bring out that cloud stuff, like so. Let's drop that down a bit more. Put some lift the shadows a bit. Increase the contrast. Right, let's go to effects, put a vignette, not too much in this case. Again, I just want to make sure I bring out that, and you can tap that down. Dehaze, you could do a bit of dehazing this. This was sort of blue hour just before as well, between the sunset and sort of sunrise, I should say. Put some clarity in there. Okay, now here, just go color and color grading. Let's do a global change on that. And let's have a look. Play around. If you make a mistake with something like that, all you have to do is double tap it. And when you've got roughly the color tint you want, you can move just to get that, and you can increase that like so to get it as you want, like so. And what I might do still is on the light, let's drop the highlights down even further. Now what you can do is, if we were going to do a selective edit here, let's just put that down there, like so, go to light. Here we can selectively just do that part there, make that more, put the effects here, increase the dehaze. That's over the top, but that's just really just highlight what that selective edit does. And there we have shot 2. So again, if I go back into that and you can export it, that's the pre-edit, post-edit, quite a big difference. And we'll do one more here. Don't forget at the end I've got about 60 after this photos I've edited, all in ProRAW, and you'll see the benefits of that. So let's do quickly put that, whoops, put 16:10, change that back, 16:9, like so. Now this was done in the ultra wide lens, and the trick here is drop the shadows down on that, because that brings out more of the sun rays there. That's too much, and you can adjust how you want. That's about right for my mind. Pull up that to brighten the water up a bit, put some contrast there. That looks quite nice. What does the phone do? You can actually hit the auto adjust. That's quite handy sometimes, but again, I do prefer to dropping that down. I will want the shadows up. You'll see why, because when I put the effects in, I put the vignette, I need more shadow there. You can really darken that. You can dehaze it as well, take some of the haze out, which helps increase the rays. Put a bit of clarity on that. And on the colour, it's pretty good. You can adjust the colour temperature here, so you can make it colder. You might prefer that. You might want it warmer. You can see the difference there. Double tap it, or you can go into the colour grading here and change the whole tone. Look, you can make it really quite something. Let's just leave it as that. Just give it a sparkle there. And there we have before and after. Pretty amazing. So